This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Screen share అవుతుందా? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We'll discuss about today about HTTP request message, HTTP response message, what is there in the HTTP protocol. I mean total domain name, so port number. These things we'll discuss today. Okay. Generally, protocol is nothing but some set of rules accomplished by in a single protocol. I mean, we have like protocols HTTP, FTP, HTTPS, like different protocols we have. So we'll discuss about HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So it is nothing but why we are using HTTP means to transfer the data from one organization to another organization. So exchanging the data from service across the network. So mainly in the HTTP communication happens by HTTP messages, HTTP request message, HTTP response message. HTTP request message means whenever the client is sending to the server, that message we will call as HTTP request message. The server is sending to a client, that message will call as HTTP response message. So generally the HTTP process format like this. We have a client through over the internet, it will go to the server. So whenever the client is sending the message, that is nothing but HTTP request message. It will goes to the server, HTTP server, and HTTP server will send the response as a HTTP response format, HTTP response message format. Okay. So generally, just a client. A client is nothing but wherever we are trying to request a service is nothing but a client. For example, we have mobile tab, browser, anything. When wherever we are making a request to the separate service, that it is nothing but a client. Server is nothing but similar. It will take the HTTP request. Based on its request, it will send the response. So, for example, we have to know some terms in the while we are using HTTP like URL and URI, URN. Generally, we will call as URL, but we have the three terms here: URL, URI, URN. So URI is a combination of both the URN and URL. So every URL can be URI, but the URI can't be URL. See here, URL is nothing but it will locate the place. URN is nothing but it will specify the exact resource. So URL indicates where is the my resource is available. It will locate the location. But URN is nothing but, so for example, exact name it will indicate. For example, each mobile have a brand name and it have a model number. So URN it will indicate the naming service. So URL indicates the just locator. Where is my resource is available? Like that it will say. Okay. So the definitions. Just a URI resource of the internet using the location and name or both. So URI has a two subsets, that is the URL and URN. It contains a name. It means it's not a URL. That is a URN. So examples simple. So for example, if I want some office details means I will just give the location. So this is my office location. It's a Bangalore Whitefield Wipro office. Here my resource is available. Like that we can use the URL. URL means exact name. Okay. So URN is nothing but a naming service. It will use the exact name. Okay. So whenever people say URI means it can be a URL or URN. So generally we will, most of the cases we will use the term called as URL only. Every URL is a URI but not vice versa. So URL is a resource locator. It is used to find the location of the resource on the web. Okay. So URL syntax. See how it is the URL syntax. So in the URL mainly we have four parts. It is divided into four parts. So one is first protocol, and it's a host name and port, and finally path or file name, path and file name. So protocol is nothing but we have discussed before. It's a HTTP or HTTPS or FTP, or different protocols we have. Now we are discussing about HTTP, the application level protocol used by the client server. Example HTTP, HTTPS, and FTP and Telnet. Host name. Host name is nothing but the IP address of the server. So the host name we will also called as domain name, or we will make it as domain name like this. So for every IP address, we will, the domain name will be with the name we will mention. Okay, generally we will recognize the server by using IP address. To remembering of IP address is so difficult, so that's why we are making the domain name. Okay, and port. Yeah, let's see. See, port is nothing but, so for example we have, so I will say that for example we have here two buildings, so building 1 and building 2. So building 1 have three gates. So man with enters with the books, man with uh, enter with the two-wheeler, and man with enter with the four-wheeler. And similarly we have a building 2 here, and it is also having the three gates with a different category. So for example, the man is going from building 1 to building 2. He is going by a two-wheeler, for suppose he is going for a two-wheeler. In the second building also, the two-wheeler gate should be open. Otherwise, he can't able to enter into this building. So he can't able to go with the this gate or this gate. He should open the, it should open the two-wheeler gate. Then only he can able to enter into the second building. Okay. Uh, Here, if you see in the technical terms, for example, this is a client. The building 1 is a client and building 2 is a server. So, so the building 1 is sending the request from the first gate. These gates are considered as ports here. Okay. These gates are nothing but ports. So server 1 sending the request through the port 1 means the server 2 accept the request from the same port. Then only it will accept the, just a minute. Yeah. So whenever a client is sending the request from the port 1, the server should accept the request from the same port. I mean, both side the port should be the same. Then only it will accept the request and it will send the response. Okay, these are gates are nothing but ports here. The same port should be there, whether client side and server side. It should be the same port. Okay. Every port has a specific number here. See, for example, HTTP, we have like different protocols, right? Each protocol have different port number. Yeah, let's see. And port has a specific number. If you see in the example, uh, google.com, right? Here, we are not finding any port number. So generally, we are not mention any port number means By default it will take the port number. So each protocol having the default port numbers. So if we didn't mention any port number, the default port number we have for every protocol. So these all are these are some uh, port numbers, I mean default port numbers for different protocols. So for we are using HTTP protocol. For HTTP protocol, it is a port number is 80, and HTTPS it's a 443. So like that we have a different port numbers, I mean default port numbers for different protocols. Okay. Those are the default port numbers in the different protocols. So for HTTP, we are not mention any port number. Then the default port number is 80. So for example, if you run, so the actual URL should be like this. For example, the port number. So generally we didn't mention any port number, so it will automatically take the default port number. Okay. And finally we have a path. Path or location. Path is nothing but it's a name and location. It's a name and location requested resource under the server. Under the server document based directory. Okay. For example, if you see in the Salesforce, every Visual Force, if you want to open a Visual Force means Visual Force page, the URL will be like this. So this is nothing but everything is path. Apex.page name is nothing but path. Here the protocol is HTTPS and the domain name is ap.salesforce.com, and port is by default it is 443 for HTTPS, and the path is apex.page name. Okay. And next, now we'll see the example of HTTP protocol communication through the HTTP message. Yeah, so HTTP protocol communication is happen through HTTP message only, but uh, so we are sending the HTTP request, we are getting the HTTP response. The HTTP request and HTTP response have the specific format, that is the HTTP message. The HTTP message have the specific format. So because we can't able to send the different formats, so that's why they have made one format, that is the HTTP message. It will have the specific format, then only it will accept the request and sends the response. So for example if you say our software sector only, so in a software sector we will work, I mean different language people will come and work, but they didn't use the different languages. In the software sector is made at the English is the common language for all people, so it will be easily understandable for each and everyone, and they can able to easily communicate with each other. Similarly, here in HTTP protocol, the communications happens with the HTTP request, HTTP message. It will have the specific format. Okay. Okay. So now we will look into HTTP message. So mainly it is contains the three parts. One is message header, one blank line, and message body. Okay. So HTTP message, it contains the three parts: HTTP header, I mean message header, blank line, and message body. So blank line it will separate the header and body values. If you see some diagram, okay, HTTP request message. So if anybody requesting the service, it is nothing but HTTP request message should be in the below format. So HTTP request message, it contains request message header and separated by a blank line, and request message body. HTTP message is divided into three parts: HTTP message header, blank line, message body. And HTTP message again divided into two parts: request line and request headers. Request line and request headers. Okay. Here, okay, request line and request headers. If you see the request line, what is there in the request line means, in a request line we have a request method, request URI, HTTP version. Okay, these three will be there in the request line. We have the request method, whether the request type is get or post or put, what is the method type, and request URI, it is specifies the resource requested, and HTTP version. In HTTP version we have two types of versions: HTTP 1.0 and 1.1. Currently in use in 1.1. These are the versions of protocols. So if you see an example, it will request line should be like this: get and request URI and version of HTTP, version of protocol. Okay, and if you coming to the request headers will be there like a key value pair. So for example, we have like accept application dot JSON, application JSON. It's the key value pair. And so what is the authentication we are using, and you are sending a request like which format you are sending, and connection should be available, keep available, connection equals to keep available, and accept language, whether English or JSON format, normal simple text. This type of values will be there. It will be in form of key value pair. It will be the form of key value pair. That is the request headers. The header contains what I'm sending, which format will, which type of it will accept. These things will be there. What is the encoding technique? I mean, okay. For example, if you see the request headers, in the request headers like host name, connection, accept, accept language, these kind of values will be there in the request headers. Okay. If you see the example, sample of HTTP request message. See, the first line is the request line. In the request line, what will have the type of request and the request URI and version of protocol. And in the request headers, we have a key value pair: host name, accept as a image, accept language English US, accept encoding zip file, like that. Content is 35. Key value pair. The key and value always separated by a colon. Okay, and one blank space is there, and finally we have a request body. This is the format of HTTP request message. And we will look into HTTP response message. HTTP response message. The server wants to send a response. It should be in the below format, that is HTTP response message. Again, the generally HTTP message divided into three parts: message header separated by a line, and message body. HTTP message, this is the three parts. If you coming to the HTTP response message, again the response header is divided into two parts, that is status line and header. In the above case, headers and request line. This is the request line and the headers. In the response case, it's the status line and headers. Okay. In the status line, what is there? See, if you see the syntax of status line, HTTP version it is there, and status code and reason in a short term. means some value will be there, like status. If you see an example, HTTP version, and it is the status code. If status based on the status code, it will say some phrases, some comments. 404 is not found. 200 means okay. 500 means server error. Like that, it will show a reason phrase. Response header. If you see the response header total, in the response header, it is again the same as headers only. It is the same as request headers. This is a key value pair. It will contain the key value pair. Again, a key and value separated by a colon. This is the response headers. If you see the example, content type, same as before. Okay, and finally we have a blank line and response message. So this is the example of response, HTTP response. Though it will have the sample status line and response headers, and one blank line and response message or body. So by looking this, we can able to get whether it is in which format. So if you see the header here, the body, it's a simple text or HTML format. It's a HTML format. So for example, if I will show you one response practically, whether it will be there in the format or not, we'll check once. Workbench, let's see in the workbench. I'm just sending one response, one request. How we'll get the response, we'll check it. If you see the raw response, see is the HTTP response message. The first line is a status line. So what is the 200 is a success and showing okay, and it's the HTTP version. And after that, these all are the headers. See, it is the headers. So it will be there a name and value pair, name and value pair, set cookie, name and value pair with the separated by a colon. And finally, after completion of all the headers, we have one blank space, one line of blank space, and finally we have a body, message body, request body. Okay, this is the format of HTTP request message and as well as HTTP response message.
సో రిక్వెస్ట్ బాడీ అంటే ఎక్కడ ఉంది?
రిక్వెస్ట్ బాడీ, ఓకే, బాడీ వచ్చేసి ఇది రెస్పాన్స్, ఇది HTTP రెస్పాన్స్ ఇది.
ఓకే,
సో రిక్వెస్ట్ బాడీ
స్టార్టింగ్
కూడా
వన్
సేమ్
వచ్చేసి వర్షన్ స్టేటస్ కోడ్, నెక్స్ట్ వచ్చి
హెడర్స్,
నెక్స్ట్
ఒక స్పేస్, బ్లాంక్ స్పేస్, ఫైనల్ గా బాడీ.
బాడీ అంటే ఈ రికార్డ్స్
అవును, మనకు వచ్చిన రెస్పాన్స్. ఇప్పుడు మనం అకౌంట్ అనే డీటెయిల్స్ ఫెచ్ చేస్తున్నాం అనుకో, ఇప్పుడు అకౌంట్ డీటెయిల్స్ అనేది మనకు రెస్పాన్స్ గా వచ్చింది.
ఓకే,
మనం రిక్వెస్ట్ చేసేటప్పుడు కూడా ఈ ఫార్మాట్ లోనే చేస్తాం, JSON ఫార్మాట్ లోనే చేస్తాం.
ఓకే షూర్.
ఓకేనా, ఇందాక ఇక్కడ డయాగ్రామ్ లో చూపించిందా సేమ్ ఇక్కడ మనం లైవ్ లో చూస్తాం, సేమ్ ఇదే ఫార్మాటే ఉంది. సో ఫస్ట్ వచ్చే స్టేటస్ లైన్, నెక్స్ట్ హెడర్స్, ఒక బ్లాంక్ స్పేస్, ఒక రెస్పాన్స్ మెసేజ్ ఆర్ రెస్పాన్స్ బాడీ. ఓకే, few more things on HTTP. Okay, HTTP is a connectionless protocol and stateless protocol. What is mean by connectionless protocol and stateless protocol? See, connectionless protocol means, so we have a client and server, right? So in HTTP, if we want to send a request, from the client, So first it will connect to the server and later it will send to the request. After sending the request, the connection will disconnect. After sending the request, connection will disconnect. The server will alone works based on the request. Once the response is ready, again it will re-establishing the connection and sends the response. So once we are sending the request, the connection will disappear. Okay, disconnects. Because of connection is disconnects, we are telling HTTP is a connectionless. So based on the request, it will work alone, server will work alone. Once the response is ready, again will re-establish and connects the sends the response. That's why we are telling it is a connectionless. HTTP is a connectionless. Okay. And what is a stateless? Stateless is nothing but stateless means, for example, we are sending the request right from client to server, and it doesn't store. For example, we are sending the multiple requests. For example, we are sending 10 requests, right? So it won't store any previous transaction details. Server will won't store any previous transaction details. For example, now I am sending one request and I got the response, and after some time again I am sending the one more request. That time it won't store it, the server won't remember the previous transaction details. That's why it is nothing but we will call as stateless. Okay. So connectionless and stateless. But every request from the client to server, it is a new. Every request, it's a new to server. It won't store any previous transaction details. Okay, this is the general format to exchange the data. Okay, general format of exchanging the data, we are using JSON format. Okay, this is the total how the HTTP message will be there, HTTP response will be there, what is the format we have covered. Okay, what is the protocol, what is the port number, what is the domain name in the HTTP we have covered. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next topic, HTTP methods. Okay, the Salesforce, in a Salesforce, right, we are using Salesforce only. So in the Salesforce we have three predefined classes which are there in the name system namespace, HTTP and HTTP request and HTTP response. We have the three classes HTTP, HTTP request and HTTP response. These three are the predefined classes in the Apex. Okay, let's see one by one. HTTP, the predefined class, and it has a HTTP class has a two methods. One is send and one more is toString. One is send, one more is toString. The send we will use to send the request. Okay. The first method, if you see, send request. This method will take HTTP request as an object, as input parameter, and it will gives the HTTP response as an output parameter. Okay. So if you see the syntax, it's the return type. HTTP response is a return type, and it will the method accept the parameter as HTTP request object as a parameter. Okay, and a toString. A toString generally why we are using the toString. So whichever the format it will be there. If I want to show in the string format, then we will use the toString method. So this method will display the properties of the object in the form of string. So it will return the string type. This is the method. It won't take any input parameters. Okay. And if you come to the HTTP request class, HTTP request is also a class in the Apex. It's a predefined in Apex, defined under namespace system. It is used to create the HTTP request message object. Okay. It has some predefined methods to set or retrieve the data of request message. So we have a many methods here. For example, okay, let's see one by one. We have a set endpoint is a method. We have a set endpoint. Set endpoint, it will accept the one parameter type of string. Okay, this specifies the which server you are making a request. Means in endpoint we are making the server URL. Okay, this will take the URL of the service provider or resource as an input parameter. If you see the syntax, public void set endpoint, and it will accept the string parameter. Okay, it nothing is returning, and each and every set we have a get methods also. Each and every set methods we have a get methods also. Okay, here we have a set endpoint. So similarly we have a get endpoint. Generally if you see in any variable in a class, we will if you want to declare one variable in a class, we will use the setters and getters also. Similarly we have here set method and get method. So set method why we are using to insert some data, and get method to fetch the data, we are using the get methods. Similarly here the set endpoint, we are passing the endpoint URL in a string format. Okay, get endpoint. So get endpoint, this will return. Okay, it won't have any parameters. This will return the endpoint from of the HTTP request. So whatever we have inserted here, that URL if we want to see by using, we can able to see by using get endpoint. Generally, a get endpoint, this method get methods will use mostly on test classes to verify the what URL we are using. Okay, the test classes, it will return the HTTP request, endpoint of the HTTP request. Syntax, if you see public string and get endpoint. Okay, generally okay. Next we have a set method. Set method, it is specifies what type of request we are making. For example, we have a different type of request like get method, post method, and put method, delete method, like different type of methods and different type of requests we have in the HTTP. Correct. So generally we have a HTTP request format is this one, right? So HTTP request is this one. Like we have a request line, request header, and blank space, and request body. This is the format of our request message. Correct. So if we are using a get method, so in a get method we are not sending any request body. Correct. So just we will send the request headers only. In the get method we are not sending any request body. So in the get, if you come to the get method, we have the HTTP request message format will be like this. So HTTP request line headers will be there, but we don't have any request body. Okay, let's see one by one each methods. So in the above image, it will show the HTTP request format. So if you see get method, so in a get method we don't have a body, just now I told. For example, if we are making any if we are trying to open any Visual Force page, so all the requests are get requests only. So we are not passing any messages, any body messages here. So everything will be in the URL only. We are passing the name is the Visual Force name in the URL directly. So we are sending the parameters in the URL only. So because we don't have any body in the get method. Okay. And if you come to the post method, it has a body, and we will send the data to the server. So this is the get method. So get method doesn't have the request body, so only headers will be there. If you want to send some parameters through headers only, we will send. So if we are using the post method, so when we are using the post method, so generally if you want to send some details to the server, some body to the server, some message to the server, so then we will go for post method. Okay. So get, when we are using, if you want to fetch some details from the server, so then we will use the get method. Okay, we use the get method to fetch the details from the server. So post method will use generally if you want to send some data to the server, then we will go for post method. And we have, other than get and post, we have put, delete, head and trace different methods we have. So when we are using the put method, so put type of request, if you want to update some data in the server, if you want to update data in the server, then we will use the put method. And similarly we have delete. So delete is nothing but if you want to delete the data from the server, then we will use the delete request. Okay. And we have a head. It will give only the response header without body. Again, it will give only response header. So for example, I am making the request to the server. In the server there are 4 files. If I want to fetch those files before I retrieve, okay, I want to know the size of files. Based on that size, I will decide whether I want to send the request or not. So for example, in the server we have a bulk of files. Okay, bulk of files. I'm just thinking I want to fetch that data. So before fetching the data, I want to know what is the size of the files. So for that time, if you want to know only the size of details, I mean the total response details, we will use the head. So if we use the head means we will get the response as only headers without body. Okay. So in headers we will get to know what all the information we have, how much information, what type of information we have, we will get to know by using head method. Okay. Based on the information we can able to make whether one request or multiple requests we will make to the server. Okay. And how to get the size of the data. Okay, we are not requesting the data, we need only a size. Okay, we will be there on the properties, it will be there on the properties. The properties is nothing but in the headers, it will be available in the response properties. Okay, if we want to do like this, we will go for head method. And we have two more methods. We have trace and options. So trace and options, generally we will use the to test whether connection is working or not. So generally we'll use the connection is working or not, client to server connection is working or not, we will go for trace, and we have options. It is defines what are the methods supported in the URL. So for example, we have one URL or request URL. So whether it will accept the get method or post method or put method, which methods is supporting. To find that one, we will go for options. So generally, we have like around 8 methods we have, right? So generally, we can use mostly get and post methods. So because by using this, we can able to achieve the other types of requests also. The post can able to do update or create. So put generally we'll use for to update the data into the server. It can be used in the post also. So generally we'll use get and post methods in a practical. Okay. So now we'll see the set method. So a set method is a HTTP request method. Okay. HTTP request method. So what type of request you are sending to the server? We have in the Salesforce, so it will support get, post, put, delete, head, and trace. Just now we discussed about these methods. Okay. So practically we can use the get and post methods. Post can achieve all the other operations also. So set method, it will accept the string. Get method, if you see the get method, it will, if you want to know which type of request it is, then we will use the get method. Syntax of get method is it will return the string type if we are using the get method. And similarly we have set header. Set header is a method in the HTTP request. It will accept the two parameters, one is key and one is value. So this method is used to set the header elements, set the header content, where header property is a key and value is a corresponding value is a value. So size of header, maximum header size should be 100 KB. It should not be a more than 100 KB. If it is a more than 100 KB, we will get some exception. So if you see an example of header, HTTP request equals to new HTTP request. So request dot set header. So authorization, it can be auth, session ID, some, it's a key and it's a value. Okay, and accept application JSON type or simple plain text or HTML. The content type is a HTML or text. Okay, these are some examples of HTTP set header methods. HTTP request set header methods. And similarly we have a get header. So get header, so we need to pass a parameter is a key. Based on that key, we will get the corresponding value. This method will return the corresponding value of the key. So we are passing content type, so we'll get the result as text or HTML. Okay, and if you go to the next method, it is the set body. Set body. Okay, so it is a accepting one parameter in the form of string. So maximum size of the body is 6 MB for synchronous apex. For synchronous apex, we will have the 6 MB, and for asynchronous apex, we'll have the 12 MB size. It means, so in a single transaction, in synchronous transaction, so if we are making the call out, so the maximum size of the body is 6 MB. So the 12 MB for asynchronous apex. So asynchronous apex, when we use the asynchronous apex, so we have asynchronous four asynchronous processes in the Salesforce. So one is batch class, one is future method, one is queuable, and one more is schedulable. Whenever we are using the asynchronous apex, the size of the size of the body is up to 12 MB. Okay, so this method is used to pass the data from client to server. The data should be passed in the string format. We generally will use the JSON string format. Okay, JSON format. JSON also it's a string format. If you see the syntax, public void set body, and it will accept the parameter as a string type. Similarly, we have a get body. This will return the body of the request. So whatever the request we are sending here, so same we will get here. If you see in the example, I will show you this get body. Let's see once. This is a different get body we have used, I think, before. Control Shift. Yeah, we have used response dot get body, but we here they are discussing about in a request, but similarly we have. Okay, let's see in the example later whenever we'll go to that. And we have some more methods like many are there. We will finish this one. Later example we will see tomorrow. Set header is completed, get header is completed, set body completed, and set body as a blob. Set body as a blob. It will take the blob format, input as a blob file. So blob is nothing but binary format. This method is used to send the blob as a body. Generally, if you want to encrypt some data and send to the server, then we'll go for blob format. We'll use the blob. Okay, that syntax is public void set body and blob message. So blob is nothing but it is in a binary format. So get body as a blob. Set, we have a get body as a blob. If we want to retrieve the body of the request message, then we'll use the get body as a blob. And we have set body document. One more method, set body document. It will accept the document object. It sets the content of the body of the request. This content represents a DOM document. This document is nothing but DOM document. If you see the example, DOM.document equals to new document. So if you want to load an XML file, we have to use document.load XML. So if you want to send body as a document, we have to use DOM.document. So it will accept the DOM.document as a parameter, input parameter. Okay, we have another method is a set client certificate. So for authorization we are using basic auth and OAuth some type, right? Similarly we have in the previous certificate. By using certificate, authorization with set client certificate, and it will accept the certificate client certificate. What happened? Okay, so while making the HTTP request, if you want to pass the certificate as a authentication, then we use this method. Okay, I think Hari, you have asked yesterday, right, about certificate.
Yes,
authorization.
yes, yes.
Yeah, like this only will make, right? So can you elaborate something about this?
No, I'm not aware of this.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, not an issue. I will continue. So through we are passing the certificate as a authentication, and then we use this method. Okay. Oh, and it is older one. So mostly nowadays we will use certificate name. Based on certificate name, the framework automatically fetch the certificate. So we have another method is a set client certificate name. So we will pass the only certificate name. So this will set the certificate name which we are passing. So based on certificate name, the framework automatically it will take the load the certificate. Certificate name, the framework automatically load the certificate name. So this is the method to pass the certificate name. Okay, and we have one more method, that is set timeout. So in a set timeout, we will mention the time limit in a milliseconds. Okay, so maximum time limit for the to send a request and get the response, it is 2 minutes. So maximum waiting time is to exchange the message is 2 minutes. So 1 to like 20,000 milliseconds. So it's that is maximum 20 minutes. So for example, we are sending some request, we are expecting a data. For example, it will take some time taken process. So if you want to increase, so it will take some time means, if you want to increase time limit, we can use this set timeout method. So by using this method, we can increase the time limit up to maximum 2 minutes. Okay. These all are the HTTP request methods we have. Okay, tomorrow we'll see some example. Okay, how to call a get method, how to call through the server, and how to fetch the data with the with authentication, without authentication. We'll look into it. Okay, I will stop the recording.